Hey guys, it's Stoof here from Travel SzN. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some great things you can do in Arches National Park, located in eastern Utah. This park is about 20 minutes north of Moab, Utah, and many people actually stay in Moab to go up to Arches National Park for some day trips. Arches National Park is well known for its natural stone arches. According to the park website, there are over 2,000 arches in the park. The park is also known for its beautiful high desert landscapes and views of the LaSalle Mountains. Arches National Park has the most people in it between the months of March and October. That's the busy season. This park is great for all age groups and all activity levels. This park does not have any restaurants or gas stations or lodging. Inside the park, there is one campground that you need to make reservations for. All right, let's dive into some great things that you can do in this national park. Let's start this list off with my personal favorite thing to do in Arches National Park, and that is the Devil's Garden Loop Trail. To get to this hiking trail, you need to take the Scenic road all the way from the park entrance to the northern end of the park. This trail features a ton of different arches. If you want to do one hiking route and see a bunch of arches, this is a great one to do. However, this trail is not the easiest. If you do the full loop, it's just under 8 miles round trip with over 1,000 feet elevation change. There's also some slick rock scrambling, so you need to have decent traction on your hiking boots. I don't recommend wearing flip-flops or shoes that don't have a good grip on them if you want to do this hike. If you're not the most physically fit, but you still want to see a few of the arches on this trail, you can absolutely do that. You do not have to do the full loop. Most people seemed like they took this path with their families and younger kids to the landscape arch point on this hiking trail and then headed back from there. So they got to see a few arches still, and personally, I think Landscape Arch is the coolest one in the whole park. It's such a massive, narrow arch. It's really incredible to see in person. We hiked this trail on an early spring day, so temperatures were very mild. It wasn't too crowded for us. We went in mid-afternoon and finished up the whole hike before sunset time. So this hike took us somewhere between 3.5 to 4 hours to do. After walking past Landscape Arch, we took a little side trail to Partition Arch and Navajo Arch. Navajo Arch was Nate's personal favorite arch. He said there was something very spiritual and calming about that area, and that's why he really liked that one. After visiting those two arches, we continued along the path, and this is where you get into the really fun, cool section with the scrambling up the rock and the views of the LaSalle Mountains and the Devil's Garden area with all these very narrow little canyons among the rock. So cool. I've never seen anything like that before. We continued along the path, making it over to Double O Arch, and then we saw a side trail that went out to Dark Angel, and we thought that name sounded really cool, so we wanted to go see what that was. It's about a half mile out to Dark Angel and a half mile back to the main trail. I would not recommend that one. It's just like a massive spire of rock, which you can actually see from that little trailhead before you get way out there. I think this is a climbing route. I think you can rock climb this area, so if you're doing some climbing, then sure, it might be a lot of fun. But just looking at it, I was like, well, I could have seen this from a half mile ago, so not that impressed with that one. But then we continued along the path, following the primitive trail back over to the vehicle, and you get more beautiful vistas. The trail gets a little bit difficult to follow here because you're on a lot of slick rock slabs. People put those little towers of rock along the sides of the trail to help you identify the path for the trail, so look for those if you're hiking and you start to get lost. But it is easy to get lost on the trail coming back this route, so just be careful if you do take this path back to your vehicles. Next is Delicate Arch. This is one of the most photographed arches in the park, and it's definitely one of the most popular hiking trails. To access Delicate Arch, you need to take the park road north, past Panorama Point, and then you'll come to a right-hand turn to Delicate Arch, and you will take that path. There are two different ways you can see Delicate Arch, and they have two different parking locations. If you want to hike to be right under the arch, walk right up to it, you want to park at the Wolf Ranch area, and then it's a 3.2 mile round trip hike out and back to get to the arch. If you just want to take the road out to the viewpoint, then that would be the little blue path on this map here. You're just going to park at the arch viewpoint. You cannot access the arch from that parking lot. You can just get a view of it. That's a less strenuous hike. To get to the upper viewpoint there, it's only 0.7 miles and 140 feet elevation gain. We chose to do the hike right to Delicate Arch, so we had 3.2 miles out and back, over 630 feet elevation change, and this hike is rated as moderate. I'd say it's a little closer to the strenuous side just because you're going uphill most of the way up to get to the arch. The trail starts from the massive parking lot where it's pretty flat at the beginning and a pretty wide trail. You can walk right past the little Wolf Ranch and see one of these historic buildings. You also can see some petroglyphs painted into the rock on the wall near the start of this trailhead. And continue walking uphill, you'll come to a massive slick rock section where you have to hike right on the rock up the path. It's pretty easy to see where to go because this is a popular trail and you're probably not going to be the only person doing this trail. Once you get to the top of that big rock section, there's a little bit of uneven terrain and rocky footing, so just be careful as you're walking over to the arch. There's also this narrow little passageway that wraps around the side of a rock face before opening up to the Delicate Arch area. So if you have kids, just be careful there. There is a pretty steep drop on the one side of that. We saw a lot of families on this hike. We saw all different age groups on this hike, but like I said, it's not the easiest hike. So just keep that in mind and be prepared before you do the hike. Next up is Double Arch. This is a pretty cool one to see in person as well because of the size of this double arch. To access Double Arch, this is located in the windows section of the park, so you're going to take the park road north. Right after Balanced Rock, you'll see on your right-hand side there will be a right-hand turn that will take you over to the windows section. And the first thing we're going to talk about is Double Arch. And the next thing on our list is also in this area of the park. Double Arch is about a 5-minute walk from a big parking lot area. It's relatively flat, and you just walk right up there and look up, and you can see this magnificent double arch. You can kind of climb up into the rock below the arches and get right under them, but it is a little bit steep in there, so just be careful. Also in the windows section of Arches National Park are the windows and turret arch. So there's north window and south window. Those are two big arches that just look like windows opening up into this big landscape behind it. This hike, if you do the full loop, it's 1.2 miles round trip and it's about 150 feet elevation change, so it's pretty easy to moderate. There are some sandy paths you have to walk on there, so you might get some sand in your shoes, but it's worth it because this is a pretty beautiful hike. You can get right up underneath Turret Arch and see the windows through Turret Arch. That's pretty cool. Next, we have the Scenic Road Viewpoints in Arches National Park. This park has over 30 miles of paved scenic path for your driving pleasure. There are a handful of viewpoints along the road where you can pull off and check out the landscape in front of you. My favorite viewpoint was either the Petrified Dunes or the LaSalle Mountain viewpoint. However, every viewpoint offers something unique. These viewpoints are all going to vary based on the time of day you see them as well, and the lighting conditions. If you visit a viewpoint on a cloudy day in the middle of the day, it might not be as exciting as visiting the same viewpoint on a sunny day right as the sun is setting with some dramatic clouds in the background. But driving the scenic road and just pulling over and looking at the viewpoints requires minimal physical activity and is a great way to still get to know the park. Next, we have Park Avenue. This is a easy to moderate rated hike. This trail has two different endpoints that you can access from the road in the park. The first one is right as you enter the park, and the second one is at Courthouse Towers. So this trail is 1 mile one way, 2 miles if you do it out and back. If you have one person in your group that is not very physically active and doesn't want to do any hiking, they can park the car, let you guys out, where you can do the 1 mile hike to the next spot at Courthouse Towers where they can drive and pick you up there. So it works out for people that want to hike and people that just want to see the viewpoints and not really get out of the car. We did this hike at dusk, so the sun had just set and we were trying to squeeze it in as the last thing we could do in the park, and I'm glad we did. You hike through this canyon. It's pretty wide and it narrows a little bit as you hike through further and further. Everywhere you turn, you get a different viewpoint. There are just amazing views all around for this hike. You don't see any arches, but you do see some pretty tall standing monuments of rock. And of course, Arches National Park is so close to the town of Moab. Moab is a great place for you to stop, grab a meal, stay overnight, try some other hikes. There's a lot of stuff to do there. When we stayed in Moab, we were at the OKRV Park, which was just south of Moab. So we would drive in for dinner every now and then. We enjoyed delicious taco shop. There's also some great pancake and breakfast options there. There's a brewery, and there's a nice little downtown shopping area as well. We tried a couple different little hikes outside of the park. We used the app called All Trails to find hiking spots to go to. And we didn't personally do this, but we noticed that this is a huge deal in Moab. Jeep tours and off-roading, ATV tours, that kind of stuff is huge in Moab. So you might enjoy that outside of the park as well. Alright guys, that concludes our list of some great things to do in Arches National Park and Moab, Utah. There are a lot more things you can do in the park because we visited in early 2021. COVID was still a scary thing with some big restrictions, so Fiery Furnace was closed. That was something I was really looking forward to, but it was closed when we were there. If you want to do the Fiery Furnace hike, you need to either have a ranger lead you through the area or you need to file for a permit, I'll leave a link to that below the description here. There are a few more arches that have a short hike to the arch that are pretty nice. They just weren't my personal favorites. There's also the visitor center. When we visited the park, there was just a small section of the gift shop and the visitor center that was open. Because of COVID, they shut down the museum section. But I'll bet that there's some really nice information about the geology, the history, and the nature in the park in that visitor center. This park is also a great one for stargazing. We don't get outside at night too often, but I heard that this park is pretty awesome for that. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and it got you pumped up for your upcoming trip to Arches National Park. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. If you've been to this park yourself and you have some other awesome things you want to recommend, leave a comment below about some other great stuff you can do in this park, so we can all share our knowledge and information and help each other out. All right, again, thanks for watching. Have a great day and happy travels.